This is usually when I have questions for you, Jim, and I got nothing this week.
Well, now don't say that. You still have your sparkling wit and charming personality, but I have a few emails that might provoke some conversation. We can hope, because we got a whole show to fill here. From some of the viewers, and I thought as a Christmas miracle, I would interject these so these people get their questions answered and they'll leave me alone. Jim, in last week's, this is from Freddie, by the way. In last week's discussion on the experience, of course, and this was months ago, which 80s wrestlers were or were not legitimate shooters, one name that didn't come up was Ric Flair. I know he isn't known as a shooter by any means, but what was the general consensus of his peers on whether or not Flair could handle himself in a legitimate fight or shoot? After all, he did train with Vern, then spent a ton of time around the likes of Harley Race and the Briscoes. It's been said that Al Perez planned to try and shoot on Flair in '88 and take the title, but that match never happened. Are there any stories of anyone actually trying to test Flair in a match? And if so, what happened? I don't think anybody but the fans ever tried to test Flair in a match. And of course, that story has been floating around. And Al Perez legitimately thought they were holding him down, that he should be the NWA champion, that he was just the greatest thing in the world. And at one point, he actually said to people, I could just fucking take it from Flair and blah, blah, blah. And so that's probably another reason the match never happened, because it wouldn't have sold fucking pussy on a troop train, much less wrestling tickets. But here's the thing. Is Ric Flair a shooter or legitimate tough guy? Or could he handle himself in a legitimate fight or shoot is the question. And once again, guys, it's what are the parameters? What are the conditions? Who's involved? Ric Flair was 6 feet tall and 240 pounds and in tremendous physical condition and a fucking beast in the gym and had incredible genetics and could kick the shit out of the average person walking around on the fucking street. And no doubt. And Rick also wrestled some in school, but was not a Kurt Angle or Danny Hodge level wrestler and never claimed to be. And he also, even though he could kick the shit out of a lot of people, wasn't going to fucking fuck with Haku. But at the same time, Ric Flair may have, in a straight amateur wrestling match, might have been able to fucking get a hold or two on Haku. But in a street fight where eating noses is legal, Haku would have had a distinct advantage over Ric Flair. So all those guys, all the guys in the business for the most part, I won't say everybody, but 90% of the guys were tougher than the average bear. They were people that you didn't want to mess with in a social setting, just out in public. But then when you get talking about, well, who's tougher than who in the wrestling business, that's when it gets it's levels of gray and shades of what are the parameters? What are the rules? What's the situation? Because a lot of those guys could have taken a lot of the other guys at a specific set of rules or in a specific way. And also who was drunk and who might not have been. So yes, was Ric Flair a tough guy as guys in the general public go? Absolutely. Was Ric Flair a level of tough guy and as an amateur wrestler that he was going to, stretch Jack Briscoe? No. And he wasn't going to beat up Harley Race, but nobody was going to stretch Jack Briscoe. And I don't think anybody was going to beat up Harley Race. So it depends. But now there has never been a less of a premium placed, though I will say this, on whether or not somebody actually could whip somebody or even looks like they could whip somebody than there is right now in the fucking wrestling business. And we've lost a little something. I remember when you used to be scared of the average professional wrestler unless it was your good-looking babyface preliminary guy that you knew was there to be a good athlete, and he did some impressive-looking stuff that you probably couldn't do. Most everybody else looked like they could kick the shit out of you. And that's why the guys liked it, and that's a lot of times that's why the girls liked it. They liked actually looking at men instead of, high school kids dressing up in cosplay, as they call it these days. Just my opinion. Do you have one?
Do I have one on if anyone tried Ric
on
Flair?
Anything I just said?
Well, I I agree. I mean, that's the one thing I don't like when I turn on wrestling and everyone just looks like a kid. And I know I'm older than I was when I was a kid watching it, but still everyone just looks young. You go back and you watch some like Mid-South or Mid-Atlantic or Memphis or wrestling from the mid-'80s, let's say as recent as that. And you look at someone who's between the age of 35 and 50, and they look like a man. They look like they've been through shit and they can really fight. You see Carl Cox in like 1982, and he's an old man by that point, but he's still believable out there.
Yeah, and also he was still believable in real life. There's another guy that could fucking just knock you out with one fucking punch. He was Murdoch's idol, and those salty old bastards were believable. But that's, it's become now a community theater for a younger set that doesn't think there's anything wrong with, silliness because nobody's supposed to believe this stuff. And it hurts my feelings. Anyway.
Well, it takes one guy to do it. I mean, someone has to do it and get talent to work for him and say, hey, while you work for me, you can't do anything stupid anywhere else. Like, that's the one rule. You can wrestle other places. You can't do stupid shit. And someone needs to develop a serious promotion. Instead of, like you said, it's community theater and everyone's some fucking trust fund jerk off out there just doing stupid shit to entertain their friends. And some of them have a lot of friends and some of them have a lot of fans, but it's just so stupid and weak. Just weak.
Just weak.